Hello, I'm David Hurst. I would like to welcome you to Hurst Excavating. We've been in business since 1993 and specialize in excavation, pipe installation, and a pipe rehab process called pipe bursting. Our employees are our #1 asset, and your safety is my #1 concern. We want to perform every job as safely as possible, and this video will talk about some of the basic safety items we deal with daily. If you ever have any safety concerns, immediately discuss them with your foreman and feel free to come talk to me. Again, welcome to Hurst Excavating.
Safety on the job site starts with proper clothing and personal protective equipment, or PPE. All employees are required to wear a shirt with sleeves, long pants, sturdy leather work boots, and hard hats. Hard hats, safety glasses, and high visibility vests will be issued to each employee upon hire and will be replaced by the company when needed. Replacing lost equipment will be the responsibility of the employee. High visibility vests are required whenever working in the road or in the road right-of-way, which is the majority of the time for many of our crews. These vests need to be washed to maintain their brightness, and over time they simply need to be replaced. These vests will be provided by Hurst Excavating. Additional PPE which may be needed depending on the job are safety glasses and hearing protection. Safety glasses should be worn any time that you are near flying debris or using cutting tools such as concrete saws. Each foreman keeps safety glasses and hearing protection in their vehicle. As a general rule, if you must yell to be heard, hearing protection should be worn. A good example is during pipe bursting operations and while cutting concrete. To get the optimum fit, earplugs should be inserted by pulling up on the earlobe as the rolled earplug is inserted. This straightens out the ear canal. The earplug should be held in place as the ear is released. This allows the ear canal to form tightly around the plug. When working around traffic, it is extremely important that all traffic controls and warning signs be set up and moved as needed throughout the project. This is to protect not only Hurst employees, but also the public. Workers should always be aware of traffic hazards, such as local residents who may try to drive around barriers. Traffic control signs and orange cones should always be used to communicate to the public clear directions. The speed and volume of traffic will dictate the type of traffic controls that are needed. The work zone often changes throughout the day, and signage should be moved as necessary. Hazard communication, or HAZCOM, is the OSHA standard which outlines basic requirements regarding chemical safety. This includes proper labeling of all containers regardless of size. You should never have to guess what is in a container. Keeping on hand material safety data sheets, MSDSs, for chemicals that can be found on the job site. MSDSs are kept in each foreman's vehicle. If you ever have a question about the hazard of a substance, you can find the info in these forms. The most common chemicals we use are fuels, lubricants, and cleaners. Chemical safety basics are: wear PPE to prevent contact. If you get something on your skin, wash it off. If you get something in your eyes, call for help and rinse your eyes for 15 minutes with fresh water and get medical attention if needed. If you breathe any fumes or vapors, move to fresh air. And always be aware if a substance is flammable. Working with sanitary sewer lines can expose workers to biological hazards. OSHA requires that each employee be offered the hepatitis vaccination at the company's expense. The decision to take the vaccine is up to you. Other precautions that must be taken when working with potentially infectious materials is the required use of rubber gloves and, when needed, a face shield. These will be made available at each job site. Safety when working in excavations is extremely important, and we will take absolutely no shortcuts or chances working in trenches. 1 cubic yard of dirt weighs over 3,000 pounds, so even a small cave-in can result in crushing injuries and death. A person who is buried up to his chest will suffocate in a matter of minutes. Any work in a trench over 5 feet in depth requires a trench box and a ladder for access into the box. You will receive additional training on excavation safety while here at Hurst Excavating, but the basics are: never enter an unprotected trench. At 5 feet of depth, protection must be provided, either a trench box or proper sloping. Never work outside the trench box. Ladders are provided when depths are over 4 feet. An excavation competent person must always be present. Our work requires that we enter manholes, which are confined spaces. Confined spaces can be very dangerous due to the possibility of hazardous atmospheres. Never enter a confined space until air monitoring has been completed. An atmosphere that has less than 19.5% oxygen will result in the entrant losing consciousness and ultimately death. This condition, an oxygen-deficient atmosphere, is often caused by other gases, such as methane, that displace the oxygen. An oxygen-deficient atmosphere cannot be detected by the human body. For this reason, in addition to wearing the monitor whenever entering confined space, the entrant must also wear a full body harness and be connected to a retrieval device. The monitors that we use test for hydrogen sulfide, also known as sewer gas, explosive gases, methane, and oxygen-deficient atmospheres. Remember, no employee shall enter a confined space until they have been properly trained, the confined space has been evaluated, the confined space entry permit is completed, pre-entry and continuous air monitoring is in place, and they are properly attached to the retrieval system. Working around heavy equipment is a part of each day at Hurst Excavating, and the consequences of being unsafe around equipment can never be forgotten. Never put yourself in a position where you can be caught between the equipment and another object or run over by the equipment. All equipment with limited visibility must have audible backup alarms, but this is no replacement for safe work practices. Never stand or walk behind moving excavators, dump trucks, skid steers, loaders, or dozers. Some of the basics to remember when working around equipment are: never walk behind running equipment. Be aware of the operator's blind spots. Never approach a piece of equipment until the operator stops the equipment and motions for you to come forward. Never assume that you are seen. Do not use cell phones in the work area. Equipment operators have a tremendous responsibility, both to the men on the ground and themselves. No one is allowed to operate a piece of equipment until they have been evaluated by their supervisor and have proven that they have the needed skills and knowledge to operate the equipment. The job site is not the place to learn. Operators must always wear their seat belts. The majority of turnover fatalities would have been prevented if the operator was belted in. When parking equipment, the operator shall always ground the blade or attachment and set the brake. Dump trucks shall always have the emergency brake set when parked, and if on an incline, the wheels should be chalked. The wheels should always be chalked when maintenance is being done. Always use 3 points of contact when climbing onto or off of a piece of equipment or dump truck. Many knee and ankle injuries can be prevented by maintaining 3 points of contact. Overhead power lines and underground utilities are extremely dangerous, and locating them is one of the first things that must be done at each job site. 811 will be called to identify and mark underground utilities, but overhead power lines must be identified by the crew on the ground. A minimum clearance of 10 feet must be kept from all overhead lines. If a piece of equipment makes contact with an energized power line, the operator should first attempt to move out of the line. If this cannot be accomplished, he should sit on the equipment until the line is de-energized. If the equipment begins to catch fire and the operator is forced to get off, he must leap from the equipment. The danger is the operator becoming the path to ground for the flow of electricity. Electrical energy flows through the ground, dissipating as it gets further away, much like the ripples from a rock that is thrown into the water. The current is stronger closer to the equipment. For this reason, if the operator must vacate the equipment, he should jump as far as possible away from the equipment, landing with both feet together and not touching the ground with his hands. From that point, he should either shuffle his feet or take large hops with his feet together. No one should ever touch any piece of equipment that is in contact with an energized line. If a natural gas line is ruptured, turn off all equipment immediately and vacate the area. Immediately call 911. Always stand clear of equipment while it's being loaded and unloaded. Trailers should always be parked on level, stable ground when being loaded or unloaded. Pay attention to the size of equipment and be aware of where it would land if turned over. Before heavy equipment is transported, it must be properly secured. Each piece of equipment has designated anchorage points to secure it properly. Also, all booms and buckets that could rotate must be tied down. To prevent any damage to other vehicles on the road, loose dirt and gravel must be swept off of equipment, trailers, and truck gates before they leave the job site. A few minutes with a broom can prevent someone's broken windshield going down the road. Seatbelt use is required for all occupants in company vehicles, drivers and passengers. This is not only a state law, but is also Hurst company policy. Cell phone use is prohibited while driving. This includes texting. Make and return calls either before you leave or after you arrive at the job site. If an injury does occur, it must be reported to your foreman immediately. There are first aid kits in each foreman's truck for minor injuries. If further medical attention is necessary, you will be taken to a medical facility. We want to make sure that every day here at Hurst Excavating is a safe day. Making sure that everyone returns home safely is every employee's responsibility. If you ever have any questions or concerns, please bring them to your foreman's attention or to the attention of David Hurst. Welcome to the team at Hurst Excavating.